All right, this is good. So yes, first up, Think Big meeting has been scheduled. So
Yay.
now we have two meetings. One is for now weekly, but eventually it will be bi-weekly. And I believe it's been set up later this week on Thursday. Was the original meeting time for this meeting, but this has now been converted to the Tuesday, and the other one is now set up Thursday. If we want to switch around or do a little bit of editing, don't be afraid to edit the calendar appointment, and we can go from there. But I tried my best to find a spot which works for all of us. Sorry, Laurie, if this is super early for you, and sorry, Tao as well.
Oh, that's
I,
okay. No.
I'm
It's
not a
fine.
morning person, so it's I would be it would be hard for me at least. All right, so the idea for this meeting is to do a little bit of walkthrough of 12.7 and see what you've come up with together with Jason, I think, Tao, and also to see if we can squeeze in some of the lower hanging fruit issues from the UX scorecard. I laid out the issues which I think are most worthwhile and also the most easy to implement and which have a significant improvement, which will make a significant improvement towards the CI stage group below, like in this low hanging fruit section. The exploration, which will mostly be my own responsibility, will be set up later today and will kind of be part of this effort as well as to running up to 12.7. But that is less about this meeting and more about the thing big, I would say. But it's especially these low hanging fruit issues that I want to discuss and see how you think about if we are able to squeeze in these issues. The build issues need to be created and need to be reviewed by engineering, obviously. But I think the scope for all of them can be pretty. There are no big issues in there, I would say. Perhaps it's nice as a first step, Tout, for you to walk us through 12.7, how you what the thoughts behind it are and what's currently been scheduled.
Okay, so do you want me to share my screen? I had a discussion with Jason about it yesterday.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. I'm not through. Okay, so let me find that board and then I'll share it.
There are some quick links at the top of this page if you want, the validation track board and the build track board.
Yeah, so that's interesting. By the way, so I found out that Crystal was thinking, let me see if that board is the same one that I use. Yeah, it is. Interesting. Okay. I'll share my screen. Share. That's odd. Okay. So I was talking to Jason yesterday, and then afterwards with Crystal. By the way, just so you know, I think from our agenda, when you link to the build track board, it's the same as what I have bookmarked for myself. But just so you're aware, there's the CI build track board out there. I don't know who created it. And Crystal was under the impression, I'm sorry, Crystal created that. Well, the engineers and her are using that, but she and I are trying to, it has fewer columns for workflow labels than the milestone tracking board, but she and I are trying to marry that up. So she's having most of that. She also thought CI workflow was something that we were using. I know Crystal created the build track one, but the CI workflow, I don't know who created that. Okay, yeah. So what I'm doing right now is my deadline is this Wednesday to have the items ready for engineering to groom. And so if and I'm only specifically focusing on the direction items. So it should be 22 in the open. Oh, sorry, and milestone. 12.7. There should be 22 under the open 18. Interesting. Okay, so
seems like a spot for 4 more issues.
What Jason and I agreed is I haven't had a chance to do it. I'm going to when I unfilter on when I unfilter on the direction label, there's actually a lot more. I'm going to group all the ones that are buzzed together at the top, the S2, and then the next grouping would be all the direction items in my rank order. I talked to Crystal. Jason and I were a little confused. Since the next milestone is 12.7, there shouldn't be anything in the block state that's in 12.7. And when I checked with Crystal yesterday, she was reminding me actually that the things that were carryover from 12.5 that they didn't feel would get unblocked in 12.6, we had thrown on the label of 12.7. So for example, this top one, I'd go to the bottom. In some cases it was her, some cases it was me. So in this case, I moved it, given this issue depend on another issue that is being handled in 12.6. So that's the reason why some of these are in this state, but Crystal and I are going to try to work through whether or not, during this week, whether or not they should remain in 12.7 and blocked or just moved back to the backlog, because we don't want to start 12.7 with things already in block state. So those 4 will probably get cleared out this week. So regarding the direction items, I was glad to learn that Jason and I are in agreement that although there's 18 direction items for 12.7, there's no expectation that engineering will commit to all of them, but we do want them to groom them and give them a weight, and then give me an idea which ones I want to negotiate with. For example, Jason says, if this one that's currently ranked at the top is going to be a weight of 5, but the 3 after it is a weight of 1, these are just hypothetical, then I may want to rank the 3 that are 1s to get them all in above this 5. And I think 5 is their maximum weight. So Crystal agreed that she wants to go through the exercise with her team. Actually, they have their grooming on Wednesdays. And so although our normal production timeline has it that by the 4th of the month, I would have a draft of the issues to start the capacity and technical discussion with engineering UX. I'm actually going to try to finish that today on the 3rd, so that the regularly scheduled grooming session for engineering on Wednesday can look at them with my rank order. A couple things Jason's going to help me do is I'm going to take my best guess on the ranking of these. He and I went through the ways that I would prioritize direction issues specifically, looking at not just the popularity based on the number of upvotes, but also the general themes that has been established on the direction page. So I'm going to be rearranging these today. He's going to take a glance at it, and then UX and engineering will start with your grooming as early as tomorrow instead of the 5th. I think this is the guideline, but I don't want them to miss the opportunity this week in their regular grooming to consider the issues already. So that's my plan. For today's meeting, I'm actually not prepared to walk through exactly in rank order, all of the direction items. Mm-hmm. And I think, okay, so a lot of these, I mean, there's 18, obviously all 18 is not going to feasibly fit in 12.7. And even if they had the full capacity to look at 18 to groom, Crystal did remind me that in milestone 12.7, there's a lot of team members that will be out due to the holiday. Mm-hmm. And we're going to be even more conservative what gets in. I may pare this down to maybe 10 that I would like to have groomed and weighted, so that I can understand what might eventually make it into 12.8 even.
And a quick question towards the direction label, right? The direction label basically depicts that this is an interesting issue for us to put in the release blog post, right? That it gets a little bit more visibility because it delivers substantial value towards the users, right?
Yeah, correct. And it also is in line with the category vision. It drives what displays in the issue list and also in the kickoff page. I think the kickoff, oh, I don't even know if I have that page, but that direction label does a couple things. It drives what displays in the handbook page for kickoffs, and also, I thought I had that saved. Here it is.
The
And
kickoff will
also,
be done later, right?
I'm sorry?
The kickoff will be done later, right? Like that is to be done instead of that has already been done.
Yeah, it's to be done, but to answer your question, what that direction label does, it does call out significant features that we would write about in the release post, but also it drives what displays here on this page. This page is looking for everything that has that direction label regardless of milestone, I believe.
Yeah, exactly. These lists are automatically populated based on how the issues have been groomed or labeled inside of GitLab, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, not regardless of milestone. I think when they update this, they do look for the milestone label for 12.7.
Gotcha.
So my work today is to figure out what's in line with the direction, the most recent content on this direction page, in order to decide the order of the ranking of these issues.
Yeah, because the issues that I'll be creating today that have been listed within the document, I would say a few of them certainly have those requirements included into them, that they are worthwhile to be discussed inside a release blog post, and they do provide considerable value towards the user. I'm a little bit less sure about how the CI direction page, how it should align with that. I think it does, but I'm less familiar with that because I think it has changed. And it is more of a CI/CD direction instead of specifically CI related, right?
No, this one is specific to CI. This one is specific.
Okay.
Yeah. This page is maintained by the PM. I mean, the latest revisions were done by Jason. I haven't started editing these. He has asked every PM to update these on a monthly basis. You'll see, yeah. So there is the general CI vision page, which is, CI CD vision page, which is this. But the one I'm talking about is specific to our area, CI only.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that, making the process of setting up GitLab CI and editing that CI configuration is actually in line with the direction set up on this page.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. All right. I mean that would make it so that the issues that I'm hoping to get in there does align with this, and so it has an equal value in terms of being a direction label as the other issues that are already inside of that milestone.
Yeah, so in this timeline, you'll see as of last week where it says product page are update to reflect previous current releases, including category epics and direction page. This was actually due last week when I was out for the holiday, for the U.S. Thanksgiving holiday, and so he said it's fine if I come back and edit this later. But this section here is what as a PM, I can call out the things that we want to focus on in like 12.7, and I will probably address that we want to pursue, facilitating the onboarding of new users to the pipeline, creating and using the pipeline more effectively. So this will be edited. Obviously, in the past, it shows that we were going to focus on the DAG pipelines, but I think we're going to get. I have to reconsider this. I think we're going to get more value pursuing the work that we talked about yesterday.
Yeah, and part of the DAGs have been implemented already, right? Like it's functional. The visual is still lacking, but the functional is there.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. And
Yeah,
so
that sounds good.
Part of this has been achieved. I think part of this has already been achieved, and I just need to update this. Yeah. So you're right. So this paragraph obviously is less relevant, and I need to update it with our new focus. Anyways, that was a very long answer to your question of walking you through 12.7. But I wanted you to know. I wanted you to know where I'm at as far as my responsibilities as the PM for 12.7, and I totally did not realize that. I'm kind of getting into the habit, and Jason does say that for all teams, this product development timeline is something pretty new that's rolled out, and everyone is trying to get into the habit of understanding at a certain date of the month, certain activities should be accomplished. But I do know that most of the PMs being in the US were out last week on the 26th, most of last week, and probably this week is catching up on this.
Yeah, that sounds good. My idea was that after this meeting, I'll create the issues mentioned here. So the build track issues, basically. I'll communicate them to you directly on Slack in the group CI channel, and ask you like, hey, please consider those for 12.7. They should be direction issues as mentioned, and I'll label them tentatively as good as possible, and then I would love for them to be included in your grooming that you are doing today on like the stack rank for the current milestone for engineering to review, because I think with that, then we would be just on time to give engineering a fair chance to really jump into it, right?
Yeah. So the engineering grooming, their weekly grooming session starts. Well, their grooming starts tomorrow, and then they do some of it asynchronously after tomorrow. I've been added as an optional attendee, and I asked Crystal. They don't always record it, but I asked Crystal to add me so that tomorrow, my plan is to do what I normally do with my past team, is to give them an overview of what I'm proposing for the next iteration of the next milestone. So I agree with you. It'll probably, one of the emphasis will be on the most recent topics that we discovered yesterday during the UX scorecard session for pipeline adoption, and in which case I'm probably going to remove some of these 18 out of the current direction items for milestone 12.7. A lot of these I found were parked in 12.7 months ago when they were descoped, a few months ago. And I don't think there was really an intent that it necessarily would be handled in 12.7.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, and I think for the issues that I'll be creating today, I think it is worthwhile to state that those are problem validated, right? That it is considerable effort gone in to say, hey, users are looking for these kind of improvements. It's not just on a way more on popularity basis. It's like they are problem validated. I think that speaks for itself. And I think it looks good, and I think it's worthwhile regardless to review those milestones, because that has been a practice for as long as I can remember, to just park them later and later into certain milestones, and then review them as that milestone comes up and see if it actually still works out as intended. Yeah,
agreed. Like for this one, for example, this one that I just opened, it was moved here 2 months ago, simply because it didn't belong where it was at the time. And there was uncertainty. Oh, okay. So did not fit into planning for 12.4, and then got moved to 12.5, and then eventually about the same time, 12.7. So if you send me the issues that you're proposing for 12.7, I might try to sync with you early tomorrow morning, like midday your time, just to make sure we're on the same page, so that when I come to this meeting for the CI team grooming, I can give them just a quick overview of what you and I were thinking, proposing for 12.7.
It sounds good. Do you think it's worthwhile for me to attend this meeting as well, or is that is it less valuable?
I think it would be good. I want to see if it lets me add you. How come there's 2 of you? There's 3 of you.
Yeah, I've had issues in the past with DZ that were confused, and this sometimes makes it a little bit more clear that it's me versus DZ and the other way around.
Okay.
So I have some alternative emails. They all end up in the same thing. It's just an alias.
Gotcha. Okay, so I added you for this going forward.
Thanks,
So we'll see how that goes. You do know that it's much later in the day for you. It's like 2 hours later than this current meeting that we're in.
Yeah, I'll see if I can join it, but then I'm at least knowledgeable about it. I think that's also worthwhile. And yeah, I'll send you these issues, and then we'll schedule the quick meeting before it. But we'll probably be very fast because we'll just cover these 5 things. And,
yeah, that sounds good. Yeah.
Awesome.
And yeah. And
so I had it. I'm sorry, Tal, go ahead.
We'll have to, Dimitri, you and I will have to really kind of monitor the development timeline where the 4th of the month falls, so that we can try to get things maybe done a little earlier to coincide with the next grooming session. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, that sounds good. So the issues I will be creating will have an initial proposal. I'll try to prepare as best as possible to give some visuals at the very least, if need be, so that engineering has a little bit of a better look at what the problem space is, and because they have to weight the issues, right?
Yes. Yeah, agreed. And I'm used to grooming sessions involving both engineers, front end, back end, UX, PM, and in the past our QA engineers as well. But I've learned that QA engineers are a completely separate team that aren't necessarily allocated to each category. So that's a little new for me.
Yeah, it's I have been in contact in the past with QA to see like if we can more closely work together. Like we figured out some things, but it kind of watered down at some point because different things took priority for both me and Zeth Morgan. But it might be an interesting thing to look into, Nadia. There might be opportunities. That was what me and Zeth Morgan, he's called, were thinking about. I can link you to the issue I'm thinking about, because we had an issue and we closed it down eventually.
Yeah, that might be good. I'm still learning how all the teams interact together, but I'm more accustomed to having them involved from the beginning, because I've found, but in the past though, those teams were not as, the unit testing was not a standard automated thing, like a standard, every implementation, here at GitLab assumes a lot of unit testing is included. So maybe the QA engineering team is using a different way that I'm accustomed to, so they're not as involved up front. I don't know.
Yeah, I believe Drew is part of the QA team, so he should know. He's part of the CI team, so I wonder, I may be saying things wrong, but I thought he was part of the QA team as well.
I don't know. I do know that they're shared across a lot of teams, and so they're not necessarily available at the individual team level planning sessions. Yeah.
Gotcha. That sounds
Yeah,
good.
and I think when the team grows and we have a dedicated one, it would be easier to include that person that's dedicated to CI.
Yeah, that you can
There,
count on it to be available, right?
yes, yeah, for verify CI. So I'm waiting to find out more about that. So right now they're not included in these sessions. Um, so I'm looking at the agenda for this meeting. There's two ones, but 1B makes sense. Oops.
There are two ones.
Yeah, let me see if I can fix that. There. Okay, so
Okay, nice.
2B, I think that's where we're at. But actually, I want to go back to 2A1. Nadia says, any help from us as preparation needed.
Yeah, I was just curious. Didn't want to interrupt because we moved into the big discussion. I'm just curious if any help, Dimitri, is needed from me, from Tao, from Lori, maybe. I understand that we don't really have an idea or a super clear idea how those sessions will go, but maybe just so we are prepared.
Yeah, from my side, I've been preparing a little for the Think Big session. I'm highlighting it right now.
Okay, so
This is what I have, but I think it would be valuable to have input from any of you in terms of like what your expectations from these meetings are, and perhaps also perhaps for example for Lori, like, hey, how are you thinking on from a UX research perspective as to the cadence we are going forward? Because I was actually doing some calculations for myself. As to like what is the cadence of efforts we have, and UX research, I kind of like I compressed it as much as possible, but setting it up and working it out until the end, it still takes 1.5 months. So it's like it's a rhythmic cadence versus our release and development cadence. So it kind of like it's always,
which is why we were
not
trying
in
to do it
sync.
ahead of time. Yeah, we were trying to do it ahead of time because you can, if you push it hard enough, you could do it in a month. You could do it in a milestone. If you knew what you needed to do. Often we don't, and that's where those extra 2 weeks come in to try to talk about and identify, to figure out what it is that we need to learn, and then we get started, and then there's that month milestone. So if we can somehow plan ahead, then that was what my question was going to be. Now that we've talked about 12.7, we really need to focus on 12.8 from a research perspective, so I can understand what is needed, so I can use this time in this month, in this milestone, to prep anybody, whoever's doing it, or me or whoever, for it, and then we can get started and do it in January when that milestone starts, so we can get back on that cadence. Because I agree, it's odd that it's not quite, it doesn't quite match up, but it also should be 1 or 2 milestones ahead anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I had that in mind as well a little bit. Part of the items you will see detail are taken from inspiration from one of the issues mentioned. I'll not go too deep into it because that is set out for the Think Big session. But there are some valuable points which I think we all can take into mind when doing these meetings. They've been like the points I jotted down basically are for us to consider. They're not, set in stone or anything like that. But I think it's worthwhile to like, hey, what do you think about this? Does this help you, or this helps me in a certain way? For example, it was a little bit influenced by the package team basically and some others. But it's I think there's some good practices in there. But yeah, absolutely, Lori, focusing on 12.8 and 12.9 in terms of research, I think now is the time. So we have the exploration for 12.7, 12.8. We got this, we also need to think about the research for 12.8, 12.9. I think that's the good thing to do, and especially a good topic of discussion for the Think Big session. So we have lots to discuss. That's not the point.
Yeah, and I think this is a very good point that you both are highlighting. I see the package are discussing the 2 milestones ahead, the issues, the topics, the ideas, and they kind of like what they do. I'm not sure if any of you've seen. They kind of like maintain a list of ideas that can come from anybody: engineering, UX, research, PM, whatever. And I think they're kind of like voting what is the one thing that they're gonna discuss during this thing big. And it's kind of like they're just sharing the knowledge, discussing competition, discussing the research, and they're kind of like building up the plans in regards to that item. So that's pretty interesting as well.
So for my part, I think from the product management, I think I need to think through this week with Jason's help to figure out what we're going to focus on for 12.8 and .9. And then maybe by this meeting next week, or I'm sorry, do we want to cover that as early as this week's session?
Yeah, preferably we would, but I think you can take that information along into your meeting with Jason, and consider it with him to say like, hey, does this align with our thinking and direction and strategy? Because if not, then perhaps we need to slightly diverge and adjust it a little bit so it's co-aligned with product management thinking.
Okay. All right. So I'll try to get with Jason before our Think Big session this Thursday. And so, he's helping me a lot as I'm still onboarding, and then as I get more familiar and comfortable with it, I won't need to, he won't be a bottleneck for me for getting the stuff that you guys need. By the way,
I think you're doing great. Like, I'm not missing anything.
Okay. Okay. I feel like I'm always catching up, and I wish I had done something like a week ago that I'm trying to do this week.
Yeah. Well, welcome to GitLab.
By the way, I'm looking at item D, Lori, your thought there. I think it echoes exactly what Dimitri has in the think big, A1A. There's a lot of
oh my God. Can somebody select it?
This thing that I highlighted here, is that your thought as well, Lori? I want to make sure it's the same thing and I'm not missing something.
Yes, that's part of it. So product vision is the map. As I think of it as a map, like you're telling me where you want this product to go. Then for the research piece of it, I need a little bit more detail of what is it that you need to know, what are the questions you need answers to in order to move that vision on that roadmap that you need for it to go. So it's like kind of both of those things. Yeah.
Okay. I'm learning that what you need that you just described there, Lori, comes out of my first stab at completing an opportunity canvas. And in doing that, I'd identify the things that I don't know that we would need to do UX research on.
Yes.
So let me figure out.
Yeah, and I was just going to say it's been really successful for doing those opportunity canvases with the researcher, the designer, and the product manager. And if you can get a developer in there to have a conversation as well, bonus points, because sometimes they can help with some of the questions that you might have about how to implement this thing, or what have we done in the past, since everybody's so new. The older the person you can find, the better. And so that's kind of a good cadre of people to have together in a synchronous meeting to start the opportunity canvas for something. So like with Darren, Juan and I were in a meeting with him a week or two ago, and Darren's like, I don't know what to do, and this is what I've got. And Juan said it before I could, and he's like, yeah, you're going to need 4 opportunity canvases for this. It's not just one thing. And so having those conversations with everybody's really been helpful, I think, for all of the product managers to just be able to bounce ideas off of and work through it, especially since it's such a new thing for most people.
Gotcha. Okay. And so Nadia, I'm going to show you what I'm looking at that is on point for what Lori and I are talking about. So I'm going to take a stab. So this is the flow of how our product development would work, which is different than the product development timeline. But from the opportunity canvas, then it kind of drives the next thing, which is validation phase one, having that backlog, which is in line with the vision, and then problem validation. Is this correct, Lori, that this is really when the UX research is heavily involved?
Yes.
Validation. Okay. I'm going to sleep for the next few days. And then we'll be in a good place after this week. Just so I can get those things done.
Hey, Tao, no worries. Seriously, I see this across all of the stages. It really takes time, and for myself as well, it's like it's on my side is less deliverable. So, like I have a little bit time to look into that. If you will need any help with figuring out the problem validation and solution validation processes or stages, feel free to get in touch. We can do this together. If there is anything that I can help you with, just let me know as well.
Yeah, that's why I'm reaching out and saying, Dimitri, he and I are going to sync real quick in the morning to make sure I understand what he's proposing. And we'll do a lot of impromptu meetings here and there until we get into a good rhythm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
So,
yeah.
Okay.
And you know what? I'll tell, I don't know, let us know, let me say this, let us know, Tao, if you think the Think Big session, if we are ready for this week, or you kind of like need a little bit of time and we should have our first maybe the next week. So you feel like, you can have some time to catch up, collect the information from Jason, etc. Let us know, like don't feel too rushed as well.
Yes, and normally I would say that, but here's the thing, I'm trying to resist my normal way of doing business of when waiting until I have all my ducks in a row or being fully ready. I think we should just, GitLab has such a bias towards action. And so it may be ugly the first one, but it's my first iteration. We might as well get it started because I'll learn during this week's Think Big really how we're going to do those. I'll get the most value out of that, and then I'll have as much as I can for us to go over, and then I'll get better every week.
Cool.
I'll just. Otherwise, if I wait till I am completely comfortable, we'll miss so much time. So as long as we all know this is my first iteration, and it's not going to be pretty, we'll just dive in. We'll just dive into it, and I'll have whatever I can ready for us to go over. Yeah.
It's first iteration for everyone anyway, on the Think Big especially. So.
Yeah. So let's make sure that we have a time to talk about it, talk about how it went. So maybe we'll have a little retrospective after.
Oh, yeah. That's good. Yeah. That's good. But you know what, Nadia, it may be new for maybe all of us, but Dimitri mentioned something about the package team. I think they've been doing Think Big sessions for a while now. Granted, that PM has been around a lot longer than I have. But is that right? Have you been in those?
I've been, yes, and there are recordings. There are video recordings and there are notes of their sessions. And I think if you will look through them, it will be so much easier. So let me actually, while as we talk, I think I pasted in the past some of the recordings here. Let me just paste them again to the top as we talk. Just watch through that. I feel this will be helpful.
Okay,
and give you a clear expectation.
You're going to put it in our agenda from this meeting? That would be good.
Here somewhere at the top, I'll put it. I'll just look for it for now real quick.
Okay, that's perfect. Have you been in on those, Lori and Dimitri, on any of the other teams?
I have not. No,
not yet.
I haven't yet.
I have been talking with Ian a lot, though, about it, as to how they do it. Like, because I had a co-working together with Nadia and Ian in Rotterdam. So I was actually, like Ian and me were, hearing each other out, how we do certain processes. And, you have a little bit of a quick back and forth as to, why you do certain things. What was the intent? What was the origin? So I have not watched the recordings yet, but I do a little bit know why they did certain things a certain way. And I think that helps a lot. In one of our previous sessions, I think I proposed like, hey, this recording is actually the same thing, but otherwise hear out, for example, the product manager of package. That would be like a similar peer-to-peer back and forth discussion as I would have had, as I have had with Ian.
Okay, I'm gonna watch that recording, and so that'll give me an idea of what how it goes and what kind of outcome that we want to strive for. Thanks, Nadia. I saw that you added it. Okay. So that's good. Oh yeah, and it has. I wonder. Hey, does YouTube have a fast forward speed when you watch things?
Yeah, I think
sure.
it does. It's a trick. Yeah,
Okay.
it should be pretty. I think it's just even there in the play. Yeah, I'm using it so often.
Okay, that way, if I have to fast forward here and there, I can. Everyone sounds like chipmunks when you do that, and it kind of amuses me.
No, that's pretty useful.
Okay,
I
did
will
we
when I
get
was
I put few of them. I put like 3 recordings because I find like if you will see that one session is like kind of like what is this? Try another one because it's similar but it's different. So have a look.
Oh, and okay, so I clicked through the agenda, for example, that you shared from the package team. So he actually has active epics called out. And then,
Yeah, so if you look into that document, you see like the active epics at the top, and I think what they do, they just pick one and they go over that.
okay, okay. Well, okay, interesting. So you know what, Dimitri? So I know that we talked about inviting engineering to the Think Big sessions. What we can ask at the CI engineering team's backlog room tomorrow, if there are things that are questions that maybe we can also answer for the newest issues that you're creating, based on the work to improve pipeline creation, we can also invite them to come to the Think Big session and kind of have that additional opportunity for them to ask questions and dive into that.
Yeah, so to elaborate or repeat, the idea is to propose for them to be invited potentially to the Think Big session if they want to, offer feedback in that early stage of milestone planning, right?
Mm-hmm. What, Nadia, for the package team, who attends the Think Big session? Is it only, well, I can't even tell who attends them.
It's
from their team.
PM, UX, front-end and back-end engineers. I'm actually amazed by how much participation is from engineering there. I was saying to Ian, it's like, oh my God, I do not know how they initially came to that, and everyone is pretty active. I can imagine that for us, it maybe will take some time, but yeah, I would kind of like say that we would try to invite like engineering, UX, research, and PM, like this plus
Right.
engineering. And not everyone in engineering should be, but yeah.
So that makes me think then, Dimitri, that maybe to start this recurring cycle off on the correct flow that we want is we don't introduce the items that you're creating for them to groom tomorrow. We invite them to come to the Think Big session where we talk through this new chunk of work we're doing for improving pipeline creation. And we cover it at the Think Big session, talk it through with engineering in the room, and then they groom those actual issues the following week. It would be December 11th the following week, but I think, let me see, December 11th, based on the engineering, based on the development timeline, the 11th. By the 13th of every month, the issues are groomed. So there's time for them to do it that way. Because I think normally the flow is they participate in a Think Big session, they groom issues that come out of those that are related to that session at their next grooming session. And in this case, they can do both and still meet the deadline of the 13th to have things groomed for milestone 12.7. And scope marked with milestone.
Sorry, I was muted. Just to make sure we're aligned, because I feel we might be mixing the intent of the meeting of the Think Big with the grooming session. So the grooming session is for upcoming milestone, right? Anything related to that should be in the grooming session. Or a weekly engineering meeting that we already have. I think it's perfectly fine to discuss things like that in that meeting. The Think Big session should be dedicated towards, the milestones after that. Looks like 12.8, 12.9, those things. Like, I think if we're gonna, mix that up, then the Think Big becomes the grooming and the grooming becomes the Think Big, and they're gonna be a bit of both all the time, and we're basically have two times the same meeting, which I think kind of defeats the point.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for that reminder. That makes sense. In which case, Nadia, I'm not going to have engineering join this week because Crystal tells me they're so new. She's just wanting them to nail down. Let me show you this to get comfortable with this whole flow for the engineering cycle before we start involving them in the validation cycle of, I don't know where it went.
Yeah, I think that is a good idea. And also, like, as if we think about it iteratively, it might make sense to, for example, first start out with only inviting the engineering manager, and then the next iteration after that, inviting, engineers themselves, and, work our way upwards. And also the next one is going to be our first Think Big session anyway. So I think it's nice for us to align first, then invite engineering slowly, and then invite the rest as we feel is appropriate.
Yeah, it's fair. Yeah. However, I feel like always, if you kind of start them, including them is always harder later than starting everyone together. However, I understand the fact that you are saying that they're new and probably they have other things to focus. In the engineering involvement into the sessions is more for listening to their input as well and their ideas, so to make sure that no one is excluded. And I am afraid that the risk with the fact including them after is that they're gonna feel this is more PM UX meeting. We are not really necessary here. However,
let's maybe target in January we start including the engineering manager, and then as she's in the Think Big sessions. And then as she gets familiar with the content of what we cover there, then she can guide us, on which, when to start involving the actual CI engineers. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're right, Dimitri. I was mixing those up because of the way I did it in my last company, but you're right. This week's Think Big session is looking 2 milestones out and beyond. So .8 and beyond. Okay.
Yeah, it sounds good. Yeah, I think it's worthwhile for us to keep those meetings dedicated, as stated before. This sounds good, by the way, to me, going the way we now discussed. So tomorrow we'll still, the engineering will have the opportunity to go over the meetings that will be included in the milestone today. I'll be creating and messaging to you a little later today on Slack, so you will get an immediate ping instead of that it's one of the many to-dos that you get. And I think we're on time with that, so that's good. And then Thursday will be the Think Big session, and we look a little bit further ahead than just the upcoming milestone. And I think the more we do that practice, the more comfortable we're going to be in the future.
Okay, 2020, and then we'll invite me first. Starting in January. Okay, so I added the note that we'll invite the EM first, starting in January 2020, and then other engineers later.
Sounds good.
Okay. We kind of skipped around. So for B, Dimitri walked through planning of. Did you already cover this, or is this for us just to read?
No, this we covered this. So this is basically the issues that that I will be creating and communicating back to you. We had a little bit of a chaotic way of documenting what has been said this meeting. And the thing big, I will be copying towards the next CI meeting. So that will be happening tomorrow. This is basically the part that I highlighted currently. I will do that immediately so it's no longer confusing us. Let me see it like this. So yeah, we're now on point.
Yeah, I'm sorry, everyone. I have to drop. I have another meeting in 5 minutes. I need to take a small break. But yeah, the planning sounds good. So looking forward to the thing big. And Dimitri, let us know if there is anything that I can do, and Tal, let me know if you need any of my help.
Okay, that's great.
Sounds good.
Thanks,
A last question to Laurie quickly. And by the way, Nadia, if you want. All right, I know that Laurie wanted to say something earlier this meeting. Did you still know what you wanted to say?
Oh, it was just to talk about 12.8 and 12.9. So
Okay.
I know, Tal, you're hard at work, and don't you worry, I'm very patient. I just don't want to miss anything for you. So whenever you have a chance to look at everything, let us know, and we can have another chat about 12.8 and 12.9. I'm happy to chat about it in another meeting that's already set. But if that meeting already has an agenda that we need to talk about, then we need to create another one to talk about 12.8 and 12.9, just so we know what's going on, and so we can get prep done and things appropriate to get answers for you.
Yeah, I'm hoping we'll identify what we want you to work on research-wise, like coming as an outcome of this week's Think Big session on Thursday.
Perfect. I will be there. I'll be there for half of it, I think. The other half overlaps with my UX research hour. So, yeah.
You're going to record it. You're going to record it.
Okay, perfect. I'll watch the other half then later.
Sounds good.
Perfect.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you so much. This has been great.
Hey, Dimitri, for tomorrow, I'm sorry, Laurie, feel free to drop Laurie if you need to. Dimitri, for tomorrow, for you and I to have a quick sync about the 12.7 proposed issue, what about if I schedule it right after your one-on-one with Nadia? Is that?
Yeah, that sounds great. Let me see. Let me check quickly, but I think that is perfectly all right. Do you often use the schedule functionality within a Google Calendar that you can see the spots in somebody else's agenda?
Yes. Yeah, I do.
That's been the best.
Yeah, oh really? I've always relied on that. So I sent it to you, but the default on all the meetings I set up is modified by anyone. So if you need to move it, you'll have the freedom to move it to.
Yeah, mine has been always set up as that like that as well. No, that sounds perfect. Plan away, please.
Okay. All right. Okay. Good meeting. Bye, everyone.
Cheers.